Yes, yes, go ahead. You said United States Jamaat, is that right? Zindabad. Jazakumullah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah who has granted us this great blessing of gathering here together to celebrate the inauguration of this mosque, Baitul Rahman. And he has drawn Ahmadis from all walks of life, from many, many countries, near and far, and many Jamaats of United States as well. And it's a very great pleasure for me to see these beloved faces of Ahmadis who are totally dedicated to the cause of Allah, and their intentions to come from far and off with great expenditure and personal inconveniences is nothing but to please Allah, and nothing but to be pleased in associating themselves with something which is done entirely for the sake of Allah. So Allah bless you all, but as far as the number recorded of the audience present here is concerned, I'm afraid it has not been correctly recorded. Last evening, the figures which were presented to me were obviously wrong. There were so many people, and I have some trained eye for judging the number because I have been working in Jalsa Salana institution right from my childhood, and we were trained to assess the number correctly. So yesterday the number was certainly beyond 5,000 and could even have exceeded 6,000 through conservative estimation. The overflow of Jalsa was all over, and when I visited the mosque last night, there were so many people standing outside that I was deeply concerned for their disinterest in the prayer. But when I entered the mosque was full to the brim. So where these extra people had come from, where did they disappear if they were not counted in by the registration office? Now, to correct the matters or to set the matters right, I have been provided with a new list which seems to be more realistic, but still there are certain contradictions. The counting, if we take it seriously, it is done correctly, is around 3,950 participants from the United States, 940 from Canada, and 300 from overseas. Now this round figure is just a suspicious something. When you round the figures off, then you must be alarmed that something is happening somewhere. So as I read that, I thought there has to be something wrong. How could it be possible for every figure to be rounded off by a zero in the end? So when I read the total, I said, no, there is something realistic about it. It says 5,506. But when I read further on, I was surprised to see that according to the estimation of the Department of Ziyafat, who is responsible for feeding the guests, they calculated the number to be 8,000 or thereabout. This is unbelievable. I can't believe that 2,500 people came from various cities, various countries to eat the lunch and disappear. So either these are right, or those are right, or these are wrong, or those are wrong. Allah knows best. But the attendance has been very full. This much we can all say, and we can share this among us, that with the grace of Allah, the attendance has been very encouraging. I forgot to mention Japan last night, but Japan was there. He's sitting before me. The personification of Japan, he is my namesake Tahir, Sayyid Tahir Ahmed Shah. Is that right? Good. And you also brought an American who had settled in Japan or was visiting there somehow, who decided to become an Ahmadi. And he had come here all the way just to meet me and do the bath. Is that right? Where is that gentleman? Where is he? Oh, yes, yes. Please be seated, please. Now I wanted to tell you that the initiation, which was first of all included in the agenda of these proceedings this afternoon, by my wish, have been shifted to the time of after Maghrib Isha prayer, because I thought they had hurriedly jumbled the people, and they would be given some more time to get all those who wanted to be initiated together. So inshallah, the bath will be performed after the Maghrib and Isha prayers, and we have two other functions immediately after that. One of what they call the Ameen function, and the second is announcement of some more nikahs. As far as the Ameen function goes, it is a very important function in the life of an Ahmadi child, because he normally is very strongly discouraged from having birthday parties, etc. So the child wants to be in the center of some important occasion. And as such, if he is totally deprived of all these things, he feels a little depressed when he sees all other children doing same things about their birthday. So Hazrat Masih Maud ﷺ, with the grace of Allah, have introduced this authentically for children to celebrate. Some people say finishing of the Quran. I say no, you can never finish the Quran. If anyone attempts or dares to finish the Quran, he will be finished by the Quran. What we should say is to finish the recitation of the Quran. And as such, this function will be for the finishing of the recitation, first recitation of the Quran. That is more correct to say. Now, because the number of children is increasing by the day who would like me to head the occasion and to help them do the Ameen ceremony, So it's impossible for me to have them, to attend to them individually as they recite the Quran, the last three surahs of the Quran. So in Canada, in America, in Los Angeles, this new idea was born and has developed that we should have mass amines of all the children together. So there in Los Angeles, around 16 or so children sat together, and I recited slowly the last three surahs, and they followed me, repeated those words, and carefully listened to what I said. And the same thing was repeated in San Francisco. And I was able also to detect some mistakes committed during the recitation, and I could correct them there. In the end, we all said the final prayer which we beg of Allah after the recitation of the Quran is finished. So this is how this function will be performed after the Maghrib and Isha prayers, and then also we'll have this bath together. Bath means people who want to get initiated into Ahmadiyyat, they would be given the chance to do it at my hand, and inshallah the rest of you can also join that by repeating the words of bath. Now when would it be possible? Will it be before Imam Ahmad has arrived? Do you feel better? Why don't you come, put another chair over there, yes? Another chair on the right side of me. Please do come and sit. You have already done it. Good. I'm glad that you made it, because otherwise I would have been kept worried about your health. You feel better now? Alhamdulillah. Now that was about the programs for tonight. Today's address will center around the most important activity of upbringing of the Ahmadis and spread of the message of Ahmadiyyat to the countries where you live. Now I've noticed that for some time I have been worried about the pace of preaching work in America and also in Canada, and also I've been worried about your seriousness in upbringing your children, and particularly the school-going children and college-going children. Now, the atmosphere in America may have been kept clean as far as the material air pollution goes, but it is one of the most polluted countries of the world as far as those toxins in the air are concerned which attack the soul and the heart, which draw you very powerfully towards material pleasures. And this toxin has no name. It attacks every religion, every following. Perhaps the best name to be given to it is materialism. Materialism at its best or at its worst. The other day, the representative of New York Times had come to interview me, and when I mentioned this pollution of the air, he was deeply shocked. He said, "Do you mean American air is polluted?" I said, "Yes, this is exactly what I mean. But I have more to say to it. Try to understand what I mean by that. This air is spiritually polluted in the sense that it has caused danger for all God-loving people, caused concern for all parents who want their children to grow in the right style, on the right path, so that they're not drawn away from God, but they begin to grow closer to God as they grow in age. So then he understood, of course. He seemed to have been a religious person himself, and he generally agreed with me. So that is one area of my concern. And the other, as I have said, the spread of the message of Allah, Islam and Ahmadiyyat, they all are covered by the same one word, Allah. In the countries where you live, and here I address all the people who have come here from various countries of the world, but particularly our host country, America. I have not been happy with the progress, with the rate of spread, with the personal participation of the members of the Ahmadiyya community in this task. Stray phenomenon is observed, of course. Some people who indulge with seriousness in the task of inviting people to the path of Allah always write to me. And this is almost a rule that whoever does it, he wants to catch my eye, wants to give me the happiness that some there are, of course, who have responded well and seriously, and they are making their efforts. So even if they are not successful, they write to me for prayer with deep concern that we have been trying to do this for a long time without results. And those who, with the grace of Allah, are blessed with success and fruits, they write it with a humble pride. Humble pride is a terminology which goes well in religious expressions, because they are proud of this fact, but in their humiliation, and right humiliation, they understand it was just a blessing of Allah that this fruit was granted to them. So I know, and I can judge from the letters which I receive daily from all over the world, where there is more activity in the area of preaching for the sake of Allah, and where the people are dormant comparatively. Of all the places in United States, I am more pleased with LA than any other place in this regard. I have been here, I am not just talking of the reports I have been receiving, but I have met the people, the outcome of their efforts and endeavors during the year, and I was so satisfied to see they were turning people to Ahmadiyyat in good earnest. And those who had become Ahmadis, with the grace of Allah, their quality was excellent. They seemed to be totally dedicated, and they understood why they had become Ahmadis. And their quality could also be judged from the type of people they were before they became Ahmadi Muslims. Now this is very important. This is what must be further explained to you, because therein would lie the incidence of your success, if you know what I am talking about. There are certain people who, though they are not Muslims, and there are certain Muslims, though they are not Ahmadis, as if they are born Muslims and born Ahmadis. Their attitude in life is such as they only find themselves at peace in Ahmadiyyat when they get into it, and in Islam, as I talked of those who are non-Muslims. They're never happy outside. They feel uneasy without knowing why. So those of the new converts who come to meet me, I can see and read the signs on their faces that this is the category they belong to. And with the grace of Allah, my assessment is always right. I just open my lips to tell them, you seem to have been always Ahmadis or Muslims, and they respond so enthusiastically. Yes, exactly, that is it, what we wanted to tell you. Now we have found the haven of peace which we have been searching for, but having buffeted here and there in the ocean of religious wilderness and emptiness and void as far as God is concerned. We tried to be religious very sincerely and honestly. We prayed to God, but somehow we thought we were out of place. And some of them who used to be Christians of various denominations discussed the matter in detail with me. Some had decided to become priests in early age of early teenage, for instance. They said, we wanted to be good, we wanted to be people of God, but somehow Christianity didn't satisfy us. But still we stuck to this desire and continued to pray for ourselves because we were not satisfied with atheism or materialism either. Always felt out of sorts. So when Ahmadiyyat came, it came to reclaim us, not to claim us, but to reclaim us, as if we had lost our touch with Ahmadiyyat, and now we have found our origin, our country, our birthplace once again. This is the type of people who are quite in abundance in the society today, everywhere in the world. They are in search. If you go to the right people, then the chances of your success are far greater than you try to blindly broadcast the seed of truth. Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, has warned us against this in a parable in which he describes somebody casting the seed of truth everywhere in the world. Some seed, he tells us, falls on the rocks and it goes waste. Some seed falls on the unresponsive soil and it goes waste. Some seed falls on the responsive soil, all right, but it's picked and eaten up by birds and animals and other agents of life. So he says, fortunate is that seed which finds the soil and sends its root into the soil and then begins to grow. But then again there is the danger, and manifest danger of animals coming and eating it up before it is permitted to grow further, or a dry season, for instance. Now this is not a part of the parable, but I am developing the same further, that those dangers which have not been mentioned by Jesus Christ also are real ones. Sometimes the seed grows, but not to maturity. It grows, and if it is not taken care of, then it may go waste, in the sense that some animals can come and feed upon it, or because nobody has taken care of it, it dries out and dies before maturity. The Holy Quran also speaks of a similar thing, but with great improvement in the quality of those who sow the seed, and a great compliment to the success rate of those people. And this is mentioned in Surah Saf about the people of the latter days who have been prophesied by Jesus Christ, that they would come and they would be the companions of the latter days of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he reappears under his attribute Ahmad. The Holy Quran describes this in detail in the words, وَمَثَلُهُمْ فِي الْإِنْجِيلِ كَزَرٍ أَخْرَجَ شَطَهُ فَآزَرَهُ فَاسْتَوَى عَلَى سُوقِهِ يوجب الزراء ليغيظ بهم الكفار. That the example of some people who would appear in the latter days is like those who sow the seed. Now, when you read the literal translation, you may wonder why I am saying that. But when you wait till you read the end, then you will agree that this is the translation, the correct translation. The translation, as we understand, should begin with the end part. Because it says, يُوجِبُ الزُّرَّاءَ لِيُغِيظَ بِهِمُ الْكُفَّارِ. All this process we are describing is a process which will make the farmers very happy, those who sow the seed and spread the seed. So it is the process which is described. And the process is that when they throw the seed, it falls on the receptive soil, because there is no mention of seed going waste at all. It falls on receptive soil, it takes root, it grows, and grows from strength to strength until it becomes a powerful tree on its stalk. And it happens while those who have sowed the seed become happy and happier, and those who don't like this, they feel extremely annoyed and worked up against it, but they can't do anything about it. So all the dangers attendant upon this process of casting the seed have been done away with in this description, and it's a glad tidings that what is going to happen according to the expectation of God in the latter period of Islam, in the latter days as we refer to it, that would be a successful attempt of broadcasting the seed of truth on every soil which is receptive. And it will be taken care of. God will take care of it. And people who sow will not neglect their responsibility until it reaches the maturity. All this is implied in it. Read it, read these verses again and again, and then you will begin to see the light which is present, but because of some fault in our vision we cannot see it. All these things are implied in this verse, because it doesn't mention the waste of seed, it doesn't mention the attempts of the enemies to destroy these sprouting petals, green petals as greenery, were so weak that anyone could trample them under the feet. But the Holy Quran says, no, this will not happen, because the end product is that it will become stronger in its stalk. And the people who sow the seed would be very happy at finding the result. Which means they are watching, they are taking care of. They are always and constantly concerned with the outcome of their labor. And they take care that these young plants are fed properly and watered properly and in time. Otherwise, the result which is mentioned could not be mentioned by God. So much so that the enemies will feel totally helpless. They would not be able to damage this process. Yet they will be in agony. They would like to destroy this, but they will not be able to destroy. This is a most wonderful compliment to the servants of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that their efforts will not go waste, because they would do things wisely and carefully and with deep dedication. Now, with reference to what the Quran teaches us, this has to be the result, the only result in fact. Because the Holy Quran tells us, when you invite people to the path of Allah, Udu ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mau'izatil hasanati. فَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. That when you invite people to the path of Allah, do it with wisdom. Don't do it blindly, throwing and casting the seed in all directions without realizing what you're doing and where the seed is falling. And a wise farmer always chooses the best plot of land available to him. Now we know we are farmers. Hazrat Masih Maud family is a farmer family, and he is mentioned as Haris in some of the prophecies about him. A man belonging to the farming community. So we have our personal experience. I used to go to Sindh, and I was made once responsible for looking after our farms, joint farms, our brothers and sisters in Sindh. And I went and to almost every corner of the land which was to be managed by me, examined its quality, and in consultation with the local authorities devised ways and means first to pick the very best soil for sowing the seed so that we could get best profit out of that, and then to turn part of the profit for reclaiming the other soil. But the turn of the worst soil would come in the end, when the first best soil is not left anywhere for us to cultivate. It will be a very stupid policy for a farmer to leave the best available soil and go to the soil which is unresponsive and which is sometimes so bad that even the worst types of plants cannot grow there. So these are the attitudes of wisdom which are mentioned in this verse, Udo ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati. Now, because of lack of attention to this very important advice of the Holy Quran, many among us lose the efforts of their lifetime, waste them, and do not get any results even after 20 or 30 years of their preaching. I know such people in real life who used to preach like they were mad after preaching. But they were mad in the sense that they did not realize that the Holy Quran requires them to employ wisdom for preaching. And they wasted their life. No results whatsoever. But I know other people who preach to some people only for a few hours, for weeks, for months, and they influence them so powerfully that they become deeply interested, and after a while they do decide to become Muslims or Ahmadis if they are not Muslims, and they are from among the Muslims, I mean. So this is important, and this is what I want your attention to be drawn to, that first of all, the most important thing is the choice of soil. And it is here that the first part of my address would be related to. I said go to the right persons who in reality have always belonged to Islam and Ahmadiyyat. Their nature is such, they are balanced people, they are rational people, they are good people in life. They want to help the poor, the suffering, and genuinely they are honest, and they want absolute justice to be exercised in the affairs of the world. These are the Ahmadis, ready-made Ahmadis. Only it is for you to change the title and tell them exactly what Islam is and how they can further develop their wonderful faculties. But this is which people do not do. They go out sometimes, they organize, for the Jamaats, I'm talking of those who administer these things, they organize sorties of some sort where Ahmadis go out and distribute the pamphlet right and left and come back. That is exactly what Jesus Christ taught people do. They go out, distribute literature, and do not care whether it falls on hard grounds or receptive soils, and they do not know how to follow it up. If any heart had been influenced and changed with that effort, they don't know how to follow it up and how to water it when it would require watering. What a huge waste. But it is not Islam which requires of its followers to do this. It requires them to be very, very miserly in the sense that they must value their time, their efforts, whatever God has granted them, and spend all that in good cause. They should be waste conscious. And as such, all their efforts of preaching should bear fruit. And again, there are many other factors which have to be brought into consideration when you plan preaching. Because there are certain people who appear to be religious, who appear to be responsive to the call of religion, but when you begin to discuss matters with them, you find that they are birds of prey, not game for you. They are sort of people who are in search of birds to prey upon. And it will be a very stupid man who goes out shooting and tries to shoot the birds of prey instead of the game, which is just for this purpose. There are different types of birds. Some are birds to be used on table, and some are just for beauty. So also there are human beings who appear to be very beautiful, but they are not fit for the table. There are those who are in search of others to be brought into Christianity, and they are so hardened to certain views which are contrary to human rationality that they just would not listen to reason. Why to waste your time on them? So many Americans I have come across during my short visits to America, were excellent people. The image of America, which is painted outside, is gloomy and also gory. But I do not think Americans are to be blamed for that. It is the crooked politics or crooked economy or crooked social values which have captured the innocent American society in a manner that even if they want to get out of the clutches, they cannot. Americans today are living a life of imprisonment. They are prisoners of mafias of various types. The mafia of Hollywood, the mafia of drugs, the mafia of the medical system, healthcare system. And think of something and the first name which comes to your mind as a befitting title is mafia. The organized criminals who have the command of American affairs on this soil of great potentials and possibilities. The common people are good people. You talk to them, you meet them at some length, and you find them, they're excellent people, human beings of the best order. But they're helpless. To help them, the only way is to call them to the safe haven of Islam, to bring them to the citadel of Islam and Ahmadiyyat, and give them new hope and new values to care for. So this is my worry and this is my concern which I want to share with you. The Ahmadis in United States and also in Canada are not performing their task as they should. Now when I say that, I know this will not help. Because if you tell somebody he is not interested, he will not be interested because of that blaming. Something else is required, some motivation which should move the heart, not just concern itself with the mind of the people. Ghalib in one situation of helplessness says, तेरे बेमेहर कहने से वो तुझ पर मेहरबान क्यों हो? Don't be stupid. Don't think that if you tell your beloved that he is without love, he would become a loving person. Something else is needed to turn a non-loving person into a loving person. So that is why I am trying to find words and means to reach your heart and motivate them. To stir them to something for which they have not been stirred before. So I am coming to that subject now. There is so much which I could say about how to preach and what measures to take and what wisdom to employ and how to employ that wisdom. But what is the use of my telling non-responsive heart? Then I will be committing the same mistake as Jesus told some of his followers were committing, throwing the seed upon the non-responsive soil. I would not like to do that. So when the soil is responsive, it is the responsibility of the farmer to care for its health and to turn it into responsive soil. And that is the hard task which has been entrusted to me, which has been entrusted to me by God. And whatever you respond, I will never fail in reminding you of what you should do and trying to send the message deep into your heart that this is what I require because God requires of you. So I'll try this and that, I'll try all I can so that I can bring you in line with the rest of the international Ahmadiyya community, which is showing great signs of change everywhere. Things are happening in Africa, in Europe, in Far East, even in Middle East, which were unthinkable before a year or two or three. I want you to be a part and parcel of the international Ahmadiyya community as such and move forward with great strides into the glorious future of Ahmadiyyat. Do not just watch the future, glorious future of others in other lands. Work for it in your country where you live and share the pleasure and pride of those who earn Allah's blessings because they have served the cause of Allah with all sincerity. So what is the basic problem with you or anybody who is not interested? I think they have not been yet trained to love Allah and to find it pleasurable. And without it, you cannot be motivated to anything. You see, when I invite you to something in which you have no heart, then I will be inviting you to drudgery and labor. And out of respect for me, maybe you respond for a while, but not forever. Drudgery is drudgery. When you ask your child to do something which he doesn't like, he will do with half-heartedness as long as you are watching him, and the moment you turn away, he will say, all right, to hell with this work, no more. I don't want you to be like such a child. I want you to put your heart into what I want you to do because Allah wants you to do it. And the journey begins with the love of Allah. If you truly love Allah, as you should, then you will begin to think in terms of pleasing God. And not only that, then you will think in terms of sharing your happiness with the rest of the mankind. If you are callous to the state of the society around you, if you feel that you have struck golden mine, and you do not care for the people dying in misery and poverty all around you, then that gold mine could be of no avail to you. You will still remain the beast that you were before you struck that mine. It is human beings which are needed for religion. Feeling human beings. So on the one hand, the journey should begin with the love of Allah, and on the second hand, the journey should begin with the love of the humankind, the creation of God. Both these are highly essential for motivating any person to a good cause. Until that which appears to be labor becomes a pleasure, an intense pleasure for a person involved in this. That is the only way that you can understand the conduct of prophets in their early period of delivering the message. You know, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he dedicated everything for the sake of spread of the message of God. He was put to all sorts of troubles and tortures, and all who loved him, and he loved them more than they loved him, were put to torture before his very eyes. All the suffering around him became his, and he lived in intense state of suffering during particularly the first phase of the spread of Islam. But he did it bravely, alone by himself. Even when Hazrat Abu Talib called him and told him clearly that up till now he was tolerant of what he did because of his natural love for him, but now the pressure of the people, of the tribes he belonged to, of the elders of Mecca is mounting so high that it is no longer possible for him to give him shelter and support. He said, stop it now. He turned to Abu Talib and said, what do you say? Was it doing it because of your shelter? No. Withdraw your shelter, withdraw your support. And what do these people want from me? They want me to stop the message of Allah, and they want to threaten me, and they want also to bribe me. They are talking of providing me the best woman in Arabia. They are talking of giving me the highest authority in Arabia. Oh, my uncle, tell them that if they bring the sun from the heavens and put it on my right hand, and pluck the moon from the heaven and put it on my left hand, I would not care for them, and I would never desist from delivering the message of Allah. Now what was it that motivated him so powerfully and strongly? So strongly that some people of Mecca started calling him a madman. And the Holy Quran tells us that it was no exception in the community of prophets. Every prophet was called a madman. So what was happening in the case of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had happened thousands of times before in case of every messenger and prophet of God who had been appointed to deliver the message of God to the mankind. Now they thought a man who is totally oblivious of his own personal interests and benefits cannot be described other than a madman. So he said he is a madman. But there were some others, wiser people among the Meccans, who said, no, he seems to have fallen in love with God. Ashika muhabbadur rabbahu. There is no other explanation. Because he talks of things so wisely that it is unfair for us to call him a madman. He is the wisest among us. But he behaves like madman, and the only wise people who behave like madmen are those who have fallen in love. The wisest among you, when he falls in love, he loses the sense of bearing and balances and goes headlong into the pursuit of his beloved. So they were right, absolutely right. It was the love of God which had motivated Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam and had sustained him throughout his life. Nothing else. And the love also creates wonders. Love, I call, is a many-splendored thing. It creates wonders that cannot be understood by ordinary common sense. I have been quoting Hazrat Masih Maud on this subject, and I never think that I have satiated myself enough on this. He has discovered the secret, in fact, which motivates all prophets of Allah and sustains them in the hours of trial and suffering. So I'll quote those oft-quoted verses by me once again to you, because without that I'll not be able to find better words to describe what love is and what it can do to you. He says, "Ay mahabbat, ajab asar numaya kar di. Zakhmo marham barahe yaar to yaksan kar di." Oh love, what wonders you have created. The wound and the ointment appear to me one in the path of love. There is no difference left. Be it a wound or be it an ointment, it's all the same for a lover. Ta na diwane shudam, hosh na amad besaram. E junoo girde tu gardam kiche ehsan kar di. Now here he links up that junoon which was attributed to the prophets and love together in a manner that you begin to understand all that was happening to all the prophets of Allah, because he went through that experience himself. He said, the junoon, that madness you see in me, is born out of love, of which I am talking. So, leaving love alone, he now begins to talk of the junoon created by love. And he says, Ta na diwane shudam, hosh na amad besaram. Until the time I went mad in love, I had not gained wisdom. I was not a wise person. "Ay junoo girde tu gardam ke che ehsan kar di." Oh, madness of love, I want to circuit around you. What a blessing you have brought to me. So this is what you are lacking if you are not interested in the work of preaching, if you are not interested in calling your friends, the people around you, to the path of Allah, and to save them from the destruction towards which the world is heading fast now. And the pace is gaining. The speed is increasing alarmingly. And they don't know. They're rushing forth madly to their own destruction and doom. While at the end of the precipice, if they were wise, they could see the sheer drop into death and hell. God has been giving lessons and warnings to the mankind, which were repeated so often by Hazrat Masih Maud in his writings and warnings. He told of the troublesome days, days to be afraid of, and days which could be even uglier than nights. He said, I see such days as my heart trembles for those who will suffer in the calamities, in the period of calamities which God has told me must befall mankind. At one one of his verses, he says, "तुम तो हो आराम में, पर अपना किस्सा क्या कहें? फिरते हैं आंखों के आगे सख्त घबराने के दिन." I am repeatedly warning you and you sleep in rest. You don't care. But I, who is not going to suffer, suffer for you. And while you rest in sleep, I turn in and turn out and I can't go to sleep because I know what is going to happen to you if you do not pay heed to this heavenly warning. Now such things are getting closer to us. People think that after the fall of the Berlin Wall, things have changed to bring about a new era in the world which will bring peace. That is a truly madman's dream. Because such things do not happen. The war and peace do not relate to the creation of walls or demolition of walls. The wars and peace are matters of human attitudes which materialize for them ultimately in the form of some heavy punishments. If the attitudes remain distorted, if they remain cruel, if they remain callous, and if they remain selfish, and there is no regard for absolute values of morality and humanity, etc., etc., then this crooked attitude would definitely bear ugly and bitter fruits. No way can you stop it. So this is what Hazrat Masih Maud saw and was shown by God in the form of the materialization of the sins of man who would turn into a punishing fire for them. And you know this to be true. You Ahmadis of United States as well. You know this is true. And yet also you claim that you have care for your friends, for your relatives who are not Ahmadis, or for your workers, mates in the offices who are not Muslims. You know this is going to happen to them, and you are careless enough not to pay regard to this, not to warn them. Not just warning like you warn somebody whom you hate. Because sometimes, out of hatred also you warn. This is an ill wish on your part. All right, do this and you will go to hell and this will happen to you and that will happen to you. But I'm talking of a different warning. The warning which was given by Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The warning, the way it was given by Hazrat Masih Maud, because he was representing the holy founder of Islam for this period which is called the latter days. Do it in that style. And as I have said, it begins with the love of God, true love of God, which turns you mad for the sake of the goodness which springs only from your relationship to God. And secondly, it also evolves from your care for the mankind. If you love mankind enough, it's impossible for you to sit idly and sleep in peace while you know that the bad days are ahead of them and waiting for them in ambush in a manner that they cannot escape. Now show me any parents who know that something bad is going to their child and they rest in peace and sleep like a log. I don't know any. Their lives are turned into lives of hell, who know that some mishap is going to occur to their child, or some deadly disease is going to befall their child. Sometimes the doctors warn them that although the child appears to be healthy nowadays, but that and that is going to happen to him. And that takes away the peace of the minds and hearts of the parents, because they truly love the child. So if this does not concern you, how can you say you're concerned for the sake of humanity? This is an issue which you should bring seriousness into your efforts of preaching. But if you preach just for increasing your number and sharing the prayer of declaring with pride that we have got 100,000 Ahmadis in the United States, then the whole purpose is lost already. You think the battle is won, I think the battle is lost. The battle must be won on the moral grounds, and if you fail on moral grounds, your battle would never be won, however much the number be in the form of the product of your efforts. So stick to the two values of love. Be sincere to Allah and to His creation, and serve the cause of Allah and call towards the path of Allah with deep motivation from your heart. Then wisdom will come to play its part, not before that. When you are motivated enough, profoundly enough, then even the dull minds become active, and they think of ways and means to achieve their purpose. That is what surprises sometimes those observers who know that somebody is half-witted and stupid, but when it comes to his own personal end, then he appears to behave very cleverly. Somehow he achieves his purpose, he does, something underneath, and when he is deeply concerned, he does achieve something. So the mind itself is not just an entity which works alike in every situation. It is an entity which has to be excited before it works to its full capacity. Otherwise, a dormant mind would never notice what's happening around him, although it may be provided with all the best faculties by Allah. So excitement of the mind, motivation of mind is a byproduct of the heart. And people seldom realize it. When the heart is motivated, then the minds get excited. If your heart is in business, then your mind will be activated in business. If your heart is not in business, then whatever admonishment you receive from your parents and other caring friends, you somehow will not learn how to do business. But the even lesser minds, with their hearts in business, will achieve great results. So heart stands before the mind. And that is why I started with the journey of preaching with the mention of heart. The Holy Quran tells you that do it with wisdom. But it tells this to those who are already motivated in the path of Allah, who already love Allah and love mankind. It does not address the unconcerned people. Because for unconcerned people, the talk of wisdom is just nothing and meaningless. So if you lack the initial energy and the source of vitality, which is needed for all human activities, even for the mind, then you are bound to be a failure. So do something about it. Unless you have, as I have said again and again, you have genuine love for God and love for the humanity, your attempt to convert people around you is bound to meet failure. bound to meet with failure. And there are other factors which have to be mentioned in this regard. I don't know how much time is allotted to this function, but I'll try to be brief. Now, the other factors involved which should also be mentioned. When your mind is excited about the preaching, when your heart is set upon it, and you begin to search for the right soil, the right method of preaching, and you also have the willingness and resolution to be persistent about it, to keep alive to the situation of those whom you are making interested in your message, then there is something very important you must always remember, and that is prayer. I have never seen good results in any effort without the help of God through prayer. And this is highly essential. This is the first and the most important lesson given to us in Surah Fatiha, where Allah tells us to pray, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Some people think that it is a good cause. It's Allah's work we are doing. Why should we pray for it? Why should they pray for worship of Allah? Is it not Allah's work? To worship God stands over and above every other human activity, and is for the sake of God apparently. So why should you pray for worship? But the Holy Quran, right in the beginning, in the first chapter, Surah Fatiha, tells you that when you make a promise to Allah, that we will worship you and you alone, don't think you will be able to do it. Not without the help of Allah. Immediately, without taking a breath in between the two, you go on saying, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. We promise that we will worship you and none others. But we immediately seek your help so that we can keep this promise. Otherwise, it will be just a vain claim and just a lip service to your worship, and it won't mean anything. And this is true. And this is very important for you to understand, because without prayers you can't achieve anything. Even the love I'm talking about, the love of God, the love of mankind, cannot be attained without prayers. So pray to Allah to grant you the opportunity to become good, excellent, productive dayin ilallah, or the sowers of seed, as Allah has defined you in the Holy Quran, as the people of the future, of the latter days, who will become farmers of a different type, spiritual farmers, will sow their seed, and the seed will always strike the right soil, and it will grow. It will never suffer from drought or neglect. It will never be wasted by the animals and enemies, and it will grow to full length and full strength. That is what you need today, and you can do it only with the help of Allah. So pray to Allah, and in all sincerity. Only then you will be able to see changes taking place within you. And without changes taking place within you, you cannot create changes around you. You have to be transformed yourself first. That transformation will be translated into the society around you, and things will begin to happen after that, not before. So although the prayer is not mentioned in the beginning of Udu ila sabilika rabbika bil hasanati bil hikmati wal mau'izati hasanati, but it is implied. And because it is implied, because with reference to the preaching of all prophets of Allah, you find the mention of prayer that they were fully armed with the instruments of prayer when they attempted to spread the message and when they held a dialogue with their enemies. They always continuously turned to God for His help and His guidance. And when you do that, then things begin to happen not only within you, but from outside. Things seem to drop upon you from heaven. Ideas begin to drop into your head like the dew falls on petals. And this I'm telling you from my personal experience as well as from the experience of all those who indulge in the activity of calling people to the path of Allah. Those who humble themselves and do not have full faith in their own efforts and wisdom and experience, they must always seek Allah's forgiveness and help from Him. Without that, the preaching would be non-productive. I have many such examples in mind, and in fact, those who are humble and preach to Allah, sometimes before the prayers are formed in thought in words, the situation becomes a prayer. I tell you a very interesting incident which our beloved uncle, Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmed Sahib, the father of our Amir of United States, Imam Ahmed, and other brothers and sisters, he related to me, and not only once, many a time. He had a masterly command of how to tell a joke while he remained composed. He was not at all perturbed himself, but he told a joke and brought it to such ultimate, suddenness of a situation which would turn you, explode you into laughter sometimes, while he remained steady and calm. That was very special about him, and he was also blessed with a quality of repeating jokes, and every time the joke resulted in people laughing naturally, not out of respect, naturally. So this is one of the situations which was a joke, but had a very profound lesson in it on the subject which I am discussing with you. He was telling me that those who are humble people of Allah, when they serve in His cause and preach for His sake, Allah never abandons them. Only you have to be sincere. And it is not just the quality of your mind. Even people who are half imbeciles, if they take it into their mind to preach, Allah will help them. So after this, he told me this joke, and repeatedly so, and I enjoyed it every time. He said there used to be a Baba Mia Bagga, who was a peon or a helper of a general sort in the Ahmadiyya school in those days. He was understood to be half-witted. Simple, honest person, but half-witted. And the boys used to joke with him and frolic with him, and he wouldn't mind and enjoy it with them. And the type of his mind was, he told me once, that, he prepared me for what was coming by telling a few things about him, which I'll share with you as well. He said that once the headmaster of the school wanted advice on how to wake up the students in time for prayer. Now, this is a common disease of children. Even the children of that time, who were the children of Sahaba and brought up in such a pious society, had some trouble getting up in the morning, at the right time for prayer. Children are children. So it happened that he was taking advice. He said, I have tried everything, but still I find some people who just don't wake up, and if they wake up, they go to sleep again. What should I do about it? some boy suggested this and some boy suggested that, and Mia Bagga raised his hand. I said, I want to hear something. Listen to me. It's all trash they are talking about. I have got a very solid plan for this, which will never fail, he promised. So what that plan was? The plan was that you order the ironmonger to build a long chain for you. And the chain should have many branches in the end. And with the, with something like handcuffs attached to the end of every branch of that chain. So put that on the feet near the ankles, the legs, calves of every student before they go to sleep. Lock it so that they may not be able to open it. And return to your home with the main chain in your hand and put one on your own foot, on your own calf yourself. So when early in the morning you want to wake these children up, all you have to do is shake your leg up and down, up and down. And every leg in the dormitories where these boys will be sleeping will start moving in the same direction, up and down. That will be enough for them to wake up. Then get up, go to the toilet and do wuzu, and every child will have to get up and go to the toilet and do wuzu simultaneously. So then say Alhamdulillah and start walking towards the mosque, and the full procession of children will follow you to the mosque, and then unlock their chains, of course, before you say your prayers. Now he told me that this was the type of the mind and the quality of the mind of that man who was called half-witted Mia Bagga. So he said, because I had this theory that God helps everyone, even if he is half-witted, who sincerely wants to spread his message. So out of curiosity to find a testimony to the truth of what I believed in, I once inquired Mia Bagga, did you ever preach yourself? So he said, yes, once I did. How did you do it? I said, I went to a village to buy firewood for the school. And there I thought I should also preach once at least. So he broached upon the subject of Hazrat Masih Maud and the normal human death of Jesus Christ, etc. And the people started arguing with him, and an uproar was created, and people started shouting at him and arguing in their respective ways. So somebody suggested that take Mia Bagga to the Maulvi of the town, of the village. He will know how to silence him, otherwise he will not be, he is not within our reach. So they took him to the mullah of the town, of the village. Now there Mia Bagga adopted a very wise policy of keeping a silence, unbreakable silence. He knew, he was not familiar with this field of the mullah. So he asked mullah, only asked him, to preach to him about the life of Jesus Christ. How could he be alive today until now, and how could he have been lifted to the heaven? And then he listened quietly. So when the mullah tried his best with reference to whatever he thought was mentioned in the Quran and other places, he kept quiet, and when mullah said, are you satisfied now? He said, no. Just no. So the mullah tried again, and he said no, and then he tried again, until Mia Bagga told Hazrat Mia Bashir Ahmed Sahib that we were both very tired and fed up. So at last he said, I broke my silence. I said, all right, Mullah Sahib, demonstrate to me, how did Isa, Jesus Christ, ascend to heaven? And he was also fed up of arguments. He picked up a stone lying nearby and threw it up and said he went up to heaven like this. Instead, he said, when it fell to the ground, I said, there he is. Just there he is. Now, he said that the simple people of the village who did not understand any argument of the mullah or my argument, they raised me on their shoulders and made a profession that this man has won and defeated the mullah. Now, if such half-witted people who have trust in Allah, who take unto themselves sometimes to preach in the path of Allah and to call to the path of Allah, if they are helped so miraculously by God, why will not you be? What is the problem? All you need is sincerity. All you need is a resolution and a determination that you will feel humble throughout your life and seek forgiveness of Allah and seek His help in enabling you to successfully broadcast His message. Do it, and the result would be the rain will begin to come drop by drop and it will cover the entire horizon of Ahmadiyya. As it is taking place, this phenomena in Africa, in Europe, in other places, and increasing in its size and pace, so you will begin to witness these wonders which are awaiting you. But create a wonderful change in yourself and your attitude. And pray to Allah to help you. Then I assure you that things will begin to happen here on this very important soil. If you win America to Islam, you win the entire world for the sake of Islam. You are situated in a very important country. As such, you must discharge your responsibilities in accordance with what God has granted you as opportunities. Allah bless you, and let's hope that soon these changes will begin to take place within you and spill over from your own person into the societies around. May Allah help us. Now let us join in silent prayer, please. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.